So dualism is a mesh. A lot rests on it. But as Crick points out, the scientific consensus now is that dualism is wrong. There is no you separable or separate from your body. In particular, there's no you separable from your brain. To put it the way cognitive scientists and psychologists and neuroscientists like to put it, the mind is what the brain does. The mind reflects the workings of the brain, just like computation reflects the working of a computer. Now, why would you hold such an outrageous view? Why would you reject dualism in favor of this alternative? Well, a few reasons. One reason is dualism has always had its problems. For one thing, it's a profoundly unscientific doctrine. We want to know, as curious people, how children learn language, what we find attractive or unattractive, what's the basis for mental illness. And dualism simply says it's all non-physical, it's part of the ether, and hence fails to explain it. More specifically, dualists like Descartes struggle to explain how a physical body connects to an immaterial soul. What's the conduit? How could this connection be made? After all, Descartes knew full well that there is such a connection. Your body obeys your commands. If you bang your toe, stub your toe, you feel pain. If you drink alcohol, it affects your reasoning. But he could only wave his hands as to how this physical thing in the world could connect to an immaterial mind. Descartes, when he was alive, was reasonable enough concluding that physical objects cannot do certain things. He was reasonable enough in concluding, for instance, as he did, that there's no way a merely physical object could ever play a game of chess. Because such a capacity is beyond the capacity of the physical world, and hence you have to extend the explanation to an immaterial soul. But now we know, we have what scientists call an existence proof. We know physical objects can do complicated and interesting things. We know, for instance, machines can play chess. We know machines can manipulate symbols. We know machines have limited capacities to engage in mathematical and logical reasoning, to recognize things, to do various forms of computations. And this makes it at least possible that we are such machines. So one, you can no longer say, look, physical things just can't do that, because we know physical things can do a lot. And this opens up the possibility that humans are physical things, in particular, that humans are brains. Finally, there's strong evidence that the brain is involved in mental life. Somebody who held a dualist view that said that what we do and what we decide and what we think and what we want have nothing to do with the physical world would be embarrassed by the fact that the brain seems to correspond in intricate and elaborate ways to our mental life. Now, this has been known for a long time. Philosophers and psychologists knew for a long time that getting smacked in the head could change your mental faculties, that diseases like syphilis could make you deranged, that chemicals like caffeine and alcohol can affect how you think. But what's new is we can now in different ways see the direct effects of mental life. Somebody with a severe and profound loss of mental faculties, the deficit will be shown correspondingly in her brain. Studies using imaging techniques like CAT scans, PET, and fMRI illustrate that different parts of the brain are active during different parts of mental life. For instance, the difference between seeing words, hearing words, reading words, and generating words can correspond to different aspects of what part of your brain is active. To some extent, if we put you in an fMRI scanner and observe what you're doing in real time, by looking at the activity patterns in your brain, we can tell whether you're thinking about music or thinking about sex. To some extent, we can tell whether you're solving a moral dilemma versus something else. And this is no surprise if what we are is the workings of our physical brains. But it is extremely difficult to explain if one is a dualist. Now, so what you have is the scientific consensus is that all of mental life, including consciousness and emotions and choice and morality, are the products of brain activities. So you would expect that when you rip open the skull and look at the brain, you'd see something glorious. You'd see, like, I don't know, a big shiny thing with glass tubes and blinding lights and sparks and wonderful colors. And actually, though, the brain is just disgusting. It looks like an old meatloaf. It's gray when you take it out of the head. It's called gray matter. But that's just because it's out of the head. Inside the head, it's bright red because it's pulsing with blood. It doesn't even taste good. Well, has anybody here ever eaten brain? I mean, it's good with cream sauce, but everything's good with cream sauce. So the question is, how can something like this give rise to us? And I mean, you have to have some sympathy for Descartes. There's another argument Descartes could have made that's a lot less subtle than the ones he did make, which is that thing responsible for free will and love and consciousness, ridiculous. What I want to do, and what the goal of neuroscience is to make it less ridiculous, to try to explain how the brain works, how the brain can give rise to thought. And what I want to do today is take a first stab at this question. But it's something we'll continue to discuss throughout the course as we talk about different aspects of mental life. What I want to do, though, now is provide a big picture. So I want to do is start off small with the smallest interesting part of the brain, and then get bigger and bigger and bigger. Talk about how the small part of the brain, the neurons, the basic building blocks of thought, combine to other mental structures, and then to different subparts of the brain, and finally to the whole thing.